At one point, she said just like this, speaking into her mic,
Hello, sweet mates. So today we're going to talk about Judas and the Black Messiah. It was a really good movie, and there was one bar, a whole bar that he dropped that I actually remember that I want to let you in on. He said, wait, let me say it right. If you dare not struggle, you dare not win. No. I said it wrong. Wait, hold on. If you dare to struggle, you dare to win. If you dare not struggle, then God damn it, you don't deserve to win. I was like, that's a whole bar. So anyway, what did y'all think about the movie?
I really liked the movie. For one thing, it highlighted like how many other groups were in Chicago trying to help their city out, which is something that you don't really realize and something that I need to do some more research on, because all we've ever heard was Black Panther, Black Panther, Black Panther. Not realizing they were all doing the same thing to that extent as the Black Panthers were. And I liked how Fred Hampton was trying to get everybody to see like the entire system is using you. So all of us, let's come together and let's help each other out, since the government isn't going to do it.
And overall, like, I felt like we really don't have to do a trigger warning for this movie, because they kept us in mind. Like, they didn't try to overwhelm us with violence against the Black Panthers. It showed them as strong. What I loved is how much they showed Fred Hampton as a man and in love with the woman, and her love for him. And it was outside of the movement, but it was also because they loved the movement. Yeah. That was the best part, because a lot of times we don't see that when it comes to leaders in the Black community. It's just like, yeah, their wife or their partner is there, but they're just there. Or they help, but you don't really see the love between them. So I really like that.
From my perspective, when it comes to, as G mentioned, these different groups that kind of have similar agendas. And even with the Black Panthers, they forget that the leader is not the organization itself, you know? And even though the Black Panthers has chapter and Fred Hampton was, you know, in a prominent position in Chicago, he made it known, like, you know, if you in this, you're not doing it for me. Because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for y'all. I'm doing it for the people. And even in moments like when Judas O'Neill, you know, was like, oh yeah, I got some C4s, let's blow this stuff up. And he was all like, what are you talking about? Like, he said, well, you said something along the lines of, you get rid of some cops, a little bit of satisfaction. You get rid of all of them, complete satisfaction. And even though obviously Judas had a wire on him and everything, so he was looking to pull information, in that moment he was upset, and like it just showed like, hey, my choice of words. And I like the fact that his wife, she was just like, you are very powerful. Choice of words is important, because in that moment somebody else minus the snitch could have interpreted it as the same thing, which a lot of people did. Their thing was, we fighting back, so you kill us, we definitely killing you. Like, that's not an option. But to just end y'all in totality, that's not the bigger picture. That's what I'm saying.
I did not notice he was only 21 though. That was crazy to me.
And the interview that Miss C sent to us, maybe we'll put it in the description box. I don't know if that will change our perception or whatever. But for O'Neill to say he was 18 or 19 when the FBI came to him, I could not imagine the FBI coming to me, threatening me with something like that, and I having to make a decision. So we know why y'all here, why you clicked on this video. The main topic of this whole movie is about William O'Neill and Fred Hampton. And I think the biggest debate within this movie is, was O'Neill really wrong? Did he directly betray and kill Fred Hampton? Or was he just a product of systemic racism? What do you guys think about that?
Why can't it be both?
I agree.
He was a product of his environment and of the situation, and he helped to get Fred Hampton murdered. Yep. Both are true.
I don't know if he thought he would be murdered. I think at the time, because keep in mind, of a 19, 20-year-old, the way that he explains it in his interview as well as in the movie, it's like the FBI is manipulating him. They did a damn good job of showing Roy Mitchell as not a racist. It was
as a father figure. That's
yeah,
what
they
they made
showed
came
him
up
as a
as.
father figure looking out for his country. And they did a perfect job for white people to understand racism doesn't look like the KKK or how these other movies portray him. It really is subtle and chill. So like for me, I don't think it was ever expressed to O'Neill that he would be murdered. I think it was, oh, we're just going to raid the apartment, because the conversations the FBI was having with him and the FBI was having with each other were two different conversations.
I don't know. I feel at the last point he knew they were going to kill him because he said he's going back to jail. What else do you need? I think at that point he knew. So before that, I would be like, yeah, he didn't think they were going to kill him or whatever. And I would kind of understand he's just trying to look out for himself. But at that point, he knew.
Even at the beginning, it's not the police questioning him, it's the FBI. You got me on pins and needles because why the FBI here? You trying to kill somebody, me or somebody else. You want my help? Oh, you trying to kill him. That's how I would have took that.
But that last scene when he asked for the layout and he was like, what, he's getting arrested.
Yeah, I think at that point he knew.
So watching the movie, I was all like, okay, at that point you knew. But William O'Neill himself said, I mapped out an apartment way before that time period. So it wasn't like right before they raided and killed and shot up that apartment. He's like, that's one of the floor plans that I gave him originally. And I guess that changed my perspective watching other stuff. But I do feel like the FBI thing, I don't think they was trying to kill him, but I feel like it was off the bat, they chose William O'Neill. It's like they was watching him and they was watching him because one, I'm not saying you gotta rob white people. I'm not saying that. He was robbing Black people, his own people, prominent people. Like I don't, you guys are in gangs. I'm still taking your car. So it's like, what do you stand for? Because if you remember in the beginning, he said, "How do you feel about when MLK died? What about Malcolm X?" And he was like, "I guess I felt some type of way. I really don't read the paper like that. What about the?" That was his way of saying, "Oh yeah, we've been watching you. We noticed your patterns, and just from this conversation and these two little questions, you don't stand for anything. So it's gonna be easier because you 18, 19, not standing for anything. You don't gotta do no time, baby. You working for me."
Yeah, he could have been questioning him to see that, but I also think O'Neill did stand for something because if you looked at Lakeith's acting, you could see him getting teary-eyed, but in his mind, you could see him thinking, oh, I can't show him that I do care because it's a white guy interrogating me. I think he did a really good job of showing that. You saw his eye get teary-eyed, you saw it pull back, and you saw him thinking, ooh, how should I answer this?
But I think it was, I'm gonna be in jail.
No, he definitely was trying to save himself, but he was thinking, why is he asking me these questions? I cannot be truthful. Would you be truthful unless they have you on a lie detector?
I think he was.
My thing is at that point, I think he was truthful because if it mattered, and not saying at that time period, every Black person had to be a part of some kind of organization. You didn't have to be specifically a part of anything to know I'm not crossing this line. Like to know at the end of the day, okay, I have my viewpoints. Even if I am one of those person who keep my mouth shut, try to stay out of trouble, I'm aware and I know, and this is an issue. I feel like he was just like, yeah, this stuff happens, but right. I'm trying to get money.
A white cop is asking you that and you're not thinking about the movement right now or that they're trying to make you infiltrate a place. Would you not just say what you have to get out of the situation?
No, I'm not going to say anything.
I think that comes down to character. I agree with C. I feel like in that moment, he was truthful because like you said, Rain, there's a white cop interrogating you and you already kind of think they already know the truth anyway. So let me just say how I really feel. I think and the interview with O'Neill, which was a great point, he wasn't the only informant. When the Black Panther Party was coming about, they had informants everywhere. They had so many O'Neills.
But he didn't know that.
And he didn't know that. But I also think they choose people based on how you feel, honestly, because it was a little too, I don't want to say it was easy because you did see him having conflicts internally throughout the movie. But at the end of the day, he stuck with his convictions. Even in that interview, he was 100%, like,
which is kind of why I'm saying he's doing anything to save his life, no matter what he thinks. Because even in the end, when he was a true believer of the party, I still gotta survive.
I don't think
I
he was
don't
ever a
think
true
he was
believer.
ever a true
No,
believer.
when I say a true believer, y'all didn't see him during that speech. He was starting to believe. He was. Y'all don't think so?
But we'll
Okay,
move
so
Well, we'll have to agree to disagree because I definitely, and even the cops saw that he was starting to believe. Like, because Fred Hampton is a very charismatic person. He was
Yeah.
starting to believe.
Mhm.
But
You
I
cannot
think he
deny
believed
that at
first.
some point he was kind
Okay,
of like,
you're right.
because he
I
was
think he
doing so
believed
much to
everything.
even rebuild. He didn't have to do all of that.
You're right. He
He was
yeah.
starting to forfeit, but at the end of the day, he was still like, I gotta save my butt.
And in the interview, he did say that. He said the
Mhm.
cops and the FBI did a great job because
Yeah,
they just let him be a Panther. And
Mhm.
then they came back and was like,
Want this and
this
that.
is what they're doing.
exactly. So I
Mhm.
think he
You're
was starting
right.
to believe, but every time they come to him, it's like, ooh, but I gotta survive though. And as you mentioned, he is 18, 19. Think about yourself at 18, 19, saying anything just to get out the situation.
I kind of feel like in this time period, people grew up faster. Because if you look at the pic like of what Fred Hampton looked like, he didn't look 21 because at that time Fred Hampton was 21. He didn't look 21 because he didn't have 21-year-old experiences, if that makes sense. You go through a lot of trauma really young that unfortunately ages you mentally, physically, emotionally, in all kind of ways. So I don't think that he was 18, 19, if that makes sense. I feel like he was a little bit older. So everything he was doing were the things that he wanted to do, if that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, but sometimes when we start thinking that way, that makes it okay for what they did because we all have this idea that Fred Hampton was a lot older. We go through our lives thinking, oh, he was older, he lived, he died for the cause, he was a martyr. But no, he was a child. He didn't even get to see his son survive, like live at all.
Exactly. And he even said that the only reason he started thinking about that so early was because he saw what was happening to Emmett Till. And he
Yeah.
was like, that's going to happen to me, my brother, my sister. So he had to grow up fast, but that still doesn't say that he was grown, if you get what I
So
mean.
now that you mentioned that, based on what you just said, Rain, when that scene when he mentioned like, oh yeah, my mother babysitted him once, twice, but when I saw that happen, that made me think I got to protect my sister and brothers. I thought in that moment it was the movie was just depicting a struggle on Fred Hampton, on his experience, and O'Neill, because his struggle was, I want to fight and make a change. I know I'm being oppressed, versus O'Neill is, I'm being oppressed, and me fighting is just, I guess, like you said, survival mode. So I do feel like if O'Neill was in that same or had that experience that Fred Hampton had, I do think it would have been a different outlook. So not to excuse what O'Neill did, but I do feel like if someone or something took an interest in him or showed him like all this that's going on, this is what it is, this is how you play a part, I think partially it excuses him to an extent, not completely.
And what I didn't like, based on like the FBI's involvement, was Hoover was horrible, and all these buildings are still named after him. There's a whole agency that still goes based on everything that happened back then. So when people these days like to say, oh, the FBI isn't watching you, they're not doing X, Y, and Z, I'm like, if they was doing that back then with no technology, imagine now. So there was a part in the movie where Hoover was like, well, based on the reason why he wanted to kill Fred Hampton is because I think it was Huey Newton and all these other leaders at the time, they were in prison. And he was like, they get more popular, they get more power.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be terminated. I think that was the turning point. And the final scene where O'Neill had to make a stance. Because at this point, I think he could have chose whatever one that he wanted. And in the interview, he said that he never drugged him. I don't believe that.
He said that in the interview?
He said he think that's rhetoric and it's fake. I just don't believe what he said in the interview when he to that part. So the
Because
fact,
the girl still survived. So I'm sure she and the other people who were in the house were the ones who said, oh, we couldn't get him up, he was drugged or something.
right. And I don't know, that last scene, it was really like the Last Supper. Like they were eating, they were chilling. And
Yeah.
then he was over here talking about you want a refill of your Kool-Aid? He had a
Mhm.
choice right then and there, and he chose.
But I also liked how they were trying to get Fred Hampton out the country to survive. And he was like, it's not about me, it's about the party. So that really, really showed. Of course, he may have wanted to survive, but he didn't care about himself. It was really about the movement. I like that.
I like that, but I felt bad for the
No,
mother
absolutely.
because I'm
Absolutely.
like, what do you mean? But I think she understood. But I think that was a
He said
hard
it in the
conflict
speech.
for
He said
her.
in the speech,
Yeah.
and she confronted him, and he was like, but this is what I did. I gave my life to the movement, to the people. So she knew at that point.
That was rough.
But the reason why I could kind of understand and forgive him for that is kind of like, we don't have money. This money could be used for the clinic.
Now,
If they
speaking of
had extra money, he may have been like, okay, let's go. But they didn't have the money.
now
Yeah.
speaking of money, where's the money from these movies going? Is it going to Fred Hampton Jr.'s initiatives, or are they just playing to what they think that we want to see?
I don't know, but it was still important to see it, but I do not know.
Yeah. And we only question when Black people get money. Like, let's be real, because nobody asks where the money from Walmart goes. Where's the money from Whole Foods? Like, I know those are important questions for our community, but sometimes I'm like, why, whenever it's Black people, all of a sudden, where the money at?
Yeah.
Who's the director?
Shocking.
I don't know, but Ryan Coogler and all of them were all up in this movie. So a lot of Black people got paid.
And the family actually had input. Like, Deborah Johnson, she doesn't go by that name anymore, but she had input. She was there when they did the last scene, and I was like, oh girl,
she was
like,
there
you
for
lived
that.
it.
Ooh, girl.
Yeah. So they were there throughout the time. They had the family's involvement, both Fred Hampton Jr. and Deborah Johnson, who doesn't go by that name anymore. I just don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, see.
I know at the scene where she was already, when he came out of jail and gave a speech and she was standing there pregnant, I thought when she was crying and going in that they were gonna like show at least a scene, because I feel like at that moment, because he was like, if I die, I die.
Oh yeah.
At that moment, I feel like she was like, nah, you're not about to die. We about to have a baby. But let me keep clapping and cheering, but we're gonna have a conversation. And I wish they showed something like that. Just like the way, if y'all saw the Malcolm X movie.
No, but they did show the conversation.
It was a poem, and I didn't understand, like, basically. But I guess that was her way of saying.
Yes, because she wrote poetry. That was her expressing her words.
That's the way she could say
I feel like
it.
that's kind of like a real conversation went. The real conversation was them talking.
Even if that was how the real conversation went, this movie is still art. So since she was a poet, they said, let us deliver it through poetry. And you didn't get the poem? That's on you, Tam, because I got it. And I was like, yo.
I was just like,
it was deep.
It was deep. I got it.
I thought the poem was mostly like, I considered aborting the baby. Like, I didn't tell you, but I considered aborting it, but I didn't. That's what I took it.
Reach.
That's what I took it. That's what I took it. So that's why I was looking for a conversation. I'm hurt and sad that I don't want you to give this up, but can you lay off a little bit? Can you teach someone else?
Maybe you fell asleep during that part, because that's exactly what she said.
I was thinking, is that not what the poem said?
And then she explained it, because he said, you think you're going to be a bad mother? And she said, yeah, because I'm in this movement. And she said, you don't get it because you don't have a person in you. You don't know what I'm going through.
Exactly. And it's like, I'm basically bringing a child into a life where the father's not going to be present because you're looking to die. And also he might die because of the surroundings that we're in. Like, that poem was deep.
You know, another thing, I'm wondering if that was factual, where William O'Neill was in the car and the other lady questioned his.
Loved her.
Me too. I love seeing her on screen, and I love that the women, a part of the Black Panther movement, were on an equal footing as the men when you really don't really see that a lot. So that's another thing. But I wonder if that's something that actually happened.
Because throughout the movie, I'm like, so y'all don't see that this is happening? Like, y'all don't see his snakerism happening? I guess
Snakerism.
I
I feel like even if that whole scene wasn't 100% real, I do feel like that was there to show that at some moments there may have been other people who picked up, like, you joining too quickly.
You rising too quickly.
And you got a car. And I wish in the interview he said whether or not he got a car,
Yeah.
but he did say he got whatever he needed. He got. So I guess basically, if I need a car, I got a car. But I would that threw me off. You wasn't pushing no cars. Okay, you steal a car. Like, it didn't make sense. I just wish he just would have popped him, even if not, just in the arm and leg, and then be like, okay, my bad. Just have to make a point. But
Okay.
And that's the only thing I didn't like about that movie, because I felt we got clarity on everybody else. Like, Jimmy Parker was killed by the police, like in custody. Algie, I just always love his characters. He was killed by the police.
Something Winters.
Yeah, but Judy, she was the one who shot at the police. They burned down the Black Panther Party, and we never saw her in the movie again. And I'm like, what the hell happened to her? I want to keep on that.
Yeah, I thought when he came out, she was like, remember when Fred Hampton came out and he was like, oh, how'd y'all do this? He's like, everybody came together. He was like, what's up, y'all? I was like, oh, she's in a little group hugging him. She was not there. So I'm like, she's probably one of the hundreds who ended up in jail and died, meaning someone killed her, obviously, that no one discusses and talk about.
When I rewatched it, I could not watch when he was being killed. I knew they were going to show it, but I was like, I'm not watching that again.
I thought they were going to show it, and I was kind of like looking at the screen all sideways. I couldn't do it. It was too much. And then when they were just showing them shoot up the whole place, that was a lot. That was
crazy.
a lot.
Then telling them to get up.
Okay.
Turn the lights on.
They was shot in the legs. They was all shot up. And then they're shooting up and they're spraying the walls. And back those buildings, a butterfly could go through the wall. But they're spraying up the walls and everything. And she's on top of him trying to wake him up. I don't know if I was her. I was just dropped into cover on the floor.
Yeah, and it still showed that she was willing to protect him, pregnant and all. Like, she was still willing.
I mean, I feel like because she was like, I don't think a bullet hit you. Like, why aren't you getting up? What's going on? I think even though they were shooting at her, in her mind, she was kind of like, but what's going on though? Like,
why are you not getting up?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I do think that he was drugged. That's why I think it's true.
And then what ticked me off in an interview, the person asked, there's been some speculations that he was drugged. You gave him a drink. And then literally the interviewer said, the person described, the people who was there said, you the last person and gave him something, and immediately you dipped out. The one, you were stupid informant. Sorry, a little aggressive. You stupid, made it hot on yourself. And then two, he had the nerve to say, I'm not sure if y'all heard me before, but Fred Hampton never took drugs. Nah, he didn't let us take drugs. I'm like, that's not the question.
That's not the
what
question.
Do you?
Well, that gave you the answer.
So I asked you, based on all of these evidence and accusations, did you do this? I didn't ask you whether or not Fred Hampton did drugs.
And he knew that.
But he knew that because at the end of the day, in that interview, we're gonna have to put this in your scripture box so people can see it. Because in the interview, he said the FBI, there's a difference between the Chicago police and the FBI. The FBI basically has more morals. They never asked me to do anything against my morals. So he would never admit that he drugged them because that meant the FBI told him to do it. And he knows the FBI still got him in his pocket.
But then in the interview, he said
gave him the gas
at some point, we had to start trying to plant evidence and come up with things to have a reason to arrest him. So I know the ice cream, the whole he got arrested for ice cream. He didn't say that specifically, but he was saying they was catching him on small things. So, jaywalking.
Something more.
You walk without a light. Not sure if there was light back then, but I'm just using an example, right? You sneezed too hard, right? And you blew down the tree. The tree hit somebody's car, was really a branch. They was finding small things to do. He even said that scene when he was trying to give them C4, he had to do something similar to that. There were certain weapons that they wasn't sure that they had or not. So I was presenting it to them. So it's like, The whole interview, you're lying horribly. And then on top of that,
well, Miss
you're
C,
saying other things like, oh no, FBI, they're up here, they're higher than the Chicago police. Yeah, that's
Which
the
is
issue.
true.
I gotta have to fix that. Let's defund them. Let's abolish them, people. But not the FBI.
They're great.
That's a higher level. Because he even said, when he told me I was working for Roy Mitchell, I was like, I'm working for the police. I didn't think I was an informant. You're not that stupid. You young, naive. And like you said, you're trying to survive and get out, but you're not that stupid. And I feel like that is who he is as a person, his character. I'm gonna play stupid as long as it benefits me.
So
Oh,
you
no,
agree
Miss-
that in the
I don't
first
think
scene he
that
was playing
he-
dumb?
Nah, I think he was being truthful.
Oh, okay.
That's the truth, Ruth.
So you're not sure about your views on him. Okay.
No, I'm saying no, I think that scene was the beginning scene when he told the truth, because even in the interviews, he said he believed what Roy Mitchell said. There was no purpose of the Black Panthers. They were just like the Klan. All these people are dying. Y'all really doing this to get Huey out of jail. And that's not what it is. And then you're gonna say a couple of minutes later, oh, whenever they asked me for information, it was never about the food program. It was never about the medical stuff. You didn't put two and two together?
He didn't care.
I also feel like he would have told the truth if he knew that was going to be his last interview.
Nah, I think he knew that.
Yeah.
No.
I think he knew that.
He committed suicide. So usually
Right after it aired.
Plan.
Right. But I'm pretty sure it took them a while to edit it. So he didn't commit suicide until it came out.
Yeah.
Then he thought and was like, oh, jump.
That's going to be received terribly.
I think he waited until it aired to see all that he was saying, like you said, how it would be perceived by the public, what history it is going to make, because that was part of the Something Eyes program segment they had.
Yes,
yeah, keep your eyes on the prize. So if you watch, because I watched the first one and I watched some of the other interviews.
Eyes on the prize?
Yeah, he's the only I would call it the eyeball, because the rest of them was a part of, agreed with the civil rights movement. He was not. So I think that was their way of saying people like him is an issue to this population. So people who have his mindset, people who have his characteristics and think like him, they're going to be the issue. The civil rights movement ends or turns for the worse.
Yeah, but
and
maybe
I think
they
he
didn't
saw
tell him that. They just wanted to, he probably thought they just wanted my point of view, what I happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then when
when he saw it, and it was like, oh man, I am the villain. Yes, sir, you are.
I am the villain, and now they know that I am the villain.
I felt like he was still conflicted even in that interview, because there was times where he said, I had no part in killing Fred Hampton. Like, that was just the Chicago police. And then he said, well, towards the end, he said, well, maybe I did indirectly kill him. Like, he said it, and I'm like, I don't even think, and he said another thing. He said, because I was an informant and I was living a double life, I never was able to really process what happened. I just had to keep it in and keep doing what I needed to do to survive.
Yep.
So that's why I think it's important to process things at different points of your life, because you could tell even that interview, probably 30 years later, he still didn't process.
I think it may have been about 20 years.
Yeah.
So that made him about 40.
Yeah, he was about 40. Yeah, you're right.
I don't think he wanted to process it, because he said after 2 days, he went back to see Roy Mitchell. Why? And I'm not saying you need a week, 7 days, a month, a year. Because even if after, because he said he saw his body and he walked through that apartment and saw everything. So even after that, yes, he walked.
Hold on. So the body was still in the apartment when he walked through?
No, I think he went to the funeral.
Oh.
But everything else was in the, I guess they never
tape up.
No, they did. There was a part of Eyes on the Prize. You can watch it here on YouTube. There's a part of Eyes on the Prize where after Fred Hampton was murdered, the Black Panther Party didn't believe what was out there in the press. So they had Black Panthers and people in the community go up to the apartment where it happened, where it was taped off, so they could see what really happened. And then there was a whole investigation where the Chicago police, they tried to pull something out there their ass and say, oh no, but they did this. And then the people are like, no, but we went in there. Like, there's only one shot that went out and 99 came in.
But he didn't give it, I don't think he gave it time to consider everything. It was I'm going back into the motion. Because like even in a movie, even that if that wasn't a true scene, he said, I'm done. Are you really? And he did it all the way up until the 70s. You knew what you was doing. Even if you can say I wasn't the one who pulled any one of those triggers, you can say you didn't drug him. But after knowing that you fed information to the point of they had his apartment layout. Oh, they knew everything that I was telling them. They just wanted me to confirm it. They had all this information. They would have been bust up in his apartment. They didn't know he had all the guns. Like what? Because I wouldn't have known that either. But that makes sense. I'm a prominent person. Why would you suspect me to be the person with all the weapons in here? He didn't give it time to think about it. He wanted the money. He was selfish and he wasn't loyal. He was loyal to himself.
That's what I got from it too. He was the ideal definition of a cockroach.
But I
that
do
is true.
think
That is the term.
I'm looking at face.
That is what they call it.
But I
I
think
just wasn't ready, Rain. I was not ready.
the only thing that I didn't like about conversations coming out of this movie was a lot of people were just pinning it on him. And I'm like, it's just so easy to talk about Bill O'Neill. But it was
but wait, to interject, they said Judas. They wanted him to be perceived that way. That's why they called him Judas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, he was Judas. Like,
no, I know, but what I'm saying is, if you call somebody a Judas, it's because you want the people to come at them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't really know like what really happened. People just know Fred Hampton was killed by the Chicago police, but they don't know how thought out it was, and that's what I'm saying.
It was assault at the hands of William O'Neill.
I think at the fault of the FBI.
Yeah.
Because regardless, if it wasn't Bill O'Neill, it would have been another Black person.
Exactly. They even might have put in the whole, who's his name, Sam's whatever, who apparently was just screwing over everybody. I don't know if he was a real person, but I'm sure they had someone like that.
So I feel like the FBI would have did whatever they wanted. And the fact that the family sued the government for money and only got 1.87 million.
The disrespect. They were suing for 48 million and got 1 point. Yeah.
The slap in the face on top of being shot in the leg.
And I guess now that I'm thinking about that, out of all the people they could have interviewed, right? They could have interviewed his wife. They could have interviewed, I know a lot of them like died, but the Bush, which I call his right-hand man because he was with him the whole time.
Oh, the one who left and had to go home.
Mm-hmm, him. You could have interviewed everyone. You can still interview Judas, but you could have interviewed everyone.
There's a documentary called The Black Panther Party, I think. It's like a Vanguard one. And they talk a little bit about that because people are like, why won't the Black Panthers just tell their story and whatever? They're like, niggas, they still watching us. Like, like there's things that I just don't want to talk about because that's like people I knew died. Like I could have died. Like I think it's more like, I know we want to hear the stories from certain people in our communities, but it's kind of like, hey, they're still watching us. Like we're still getting
real life.
Like this isn't just a part of history. This is
still
forever for me.
Yep.
I'll watch it again. Not for $20 though.
Yeah, if you want to see Judas and Black Messiah, you can get it anywhere for $20. So Judas and Black Messiah has been nominated for Best Picture. Shaka King was the director, Ryan Coogler, and the rest of those people. Best supporting actor, Lakeith Stanfield. Best supporting actor, Daniel Kaluuya. Best original screenplay, Shaka King, Will Burson, and them. And best cinematography, Sean Bobbitt. That cinematography was everything. It was so good.
One of the moments that I liked was how it looked when it got burnt down. And how it got rebuilt and how it was done quickly, even though it was a set, so it probably was not that hard. But in real life, they really captured what probably happened because we weren't there to say what happened.
I think they're gonna win it all.
Yeah, all of it was everything. I love it.
Well, this is a lot of movies and short films nominated for the Boscars, and I don't think they're gonna let all of them win. So it sounds like this one is gonna get one of those Boscars, but I think
they'll get at least 4 or 5.
They
I'm gonna say
going home with something.
Wait, oh, they can't get 9 because I guess the 8th and 9th one would be the 2 of them who are in the same.
Yeah. I think they're going to win the most important categories. And I know people who are in the arts, all the categories are important for us. Only certain ones are important. So,
well,
The Oscars need to start to
tomorrow.
tell us when those are coming on so we could just flick
I
back.
just wait for the Instagram or social media. So follow us on Instagram and we'll put it out there for y'all. So you don't have to waste your time watching the whole thing.
So, sweet mates, I hope you enjoyed our little conversation, debate, whatever you want to call it, on this movie. I had a good time. One of the first times I did debating who's going to win an Oscar or Boscar. But let us know in the comments if you saw the movie, who you think should win, if you think they should get all that they've been nominated for. Let us know everything. We like reading what you said. Bye.
And if you call Lakeith Judas, you cannot sit on the couch, okay? See you later.
The couch in my own apartment.
But I did call him Judas a couple of times. I was referring to the character.
Girl, it don't even matter. We lived there.
I'm talking about strangers. I'm talking about
referring to the
we can sit where we want.
Y'all can, but I'm talking about the other Suitemates.
Of course we can. It's our couch. What you talking about? Some of them y'all can. Goodness. Bye.
Later.